What's happening, Sales Center? Sean here, back at you with another high-ticket tune-up. And so my question is this: have you ever talked yourself out of a deal, even though you thought you weren't going to talk yourself out of a deal? Well, in this video, I'm going to share exactly the number one thing that will stop you from talking yourself out of deals moving forward. What's happening, Sales Ascender? Sean here, back at you with another high-ticket tune-up. Don't forget to share this to someone that cares about it and smash that subscribe button, subscribe to the channel. Today, we have a great question came in from Mr. Ed T. Ed T asked this. He said, Sean, during my sales calls, I share my expertise and help my prospects start getting results right there on the spot, but they don't buy from me. Do you have any thoughts? Yes, of course I have thoughts. I have a ton of developed thoughts on this. I remember when I first started selling commodities. Now, what was a commodity? I used to sell electronics. Inside of electronics, let's take, for example, what's electronics? Maybe a phone, right? So inside of this phone, you've got circuitry, you've got some LED, like touch screen. You've got a case, which is metal. And so what I used to do is actually supply the metal and the electronic components to companies. They would assemble them and then sell them to whoever. And I remember going into all of these prospects when I first started my selling career and have these conversations, and I would say, well, let's talk about metal. And I would get way too into the metals, the different types of metals that were down there. And I would start sharing a lot of data that my prospect didn't need to know at that time during that particular part of the sales conversation. And so what Ed is asking about is probably what I stumbled with and fell into when I was selling, and it caused me to not sell, right? And what I was doing was very simple. It was spilling my candy in the lobby. Let me explain this, right? So let's say you go into a sales conversation and you go and you show up at somebody's office, and all of a sudden you get through and you're speaking with a decision maker, your prospect, who can actually buy from you, or at least you think you can buy from you. And he says, well, what do you do? And sometimes that question will set off the traditional salesperson, and they will come after it and say, well, I do this and I do this and I do this. Prospect's next question is, well, how does that work, right? And again, if you go back to the prospect's buying system, lie, steal, lie, hide, let's talk about that second category, is stealing. They're stealing all of your candy. And so when they say, well, how do you do that? And you say, well, look, like what I used to do, they say, well, how does that work? Like, what metals do you actually have? How does it all come together? And I would say, look, we have these different foundries. We can pull all these different types of metals out of the ground. And then here's all the mechanical pieces and attributes of all this stuff. And at the end, the guy goes, oh, well, I think that's the kind that I need. Thanks very much. I'm not really interested right now from you. I'm not ready to make a purchase. I'll talk to you later. And I'd be like, great. I know exactly what you want now. And then I would leave thinking I made some progress in this conversation. And then I would go back and I'd be like, hey, boss, guess what? I think this guy is actually going to buy some stuff from me. And what happens is I find out 2 weeks later, he took all of the stuff that I shared with him and he went to the competitor and bought the exact thing that he needed from somebody else. And it kept happening to me over and over and over. And so if this happens to you, where you see somebody who you know is a great fit and you share a whole bunch of stuff, whether it's coaching or service related or product related, whatever, and then you find out that you lost the deal only to a competitor who sold them the exact thing you were talking about in the beginning, well, that's probably because you're spilling your candy in the lobby. And that sucks. Like, I was there. I know what it feels like. And so the goal, right? When we sell, the goal, again, is not to spill our candy in the lobby, but the goal is to find out why and under what circumstances the prospect will actually buy from you. And it's very simple to understand. In our selling system that we teach, there's 7 steps that you have to walk through. And 3 of those steps are going to tell you exactly why and under what circumstances the prospect will buy from you, right? And it comes down to this. Do you understand the problem that you solve for somebody? And if they have that problem, that becomes the why. And then under what circumstances? Do they have the budget that they can afford, time, energy, and money? And what's the buying process they go through to make decisions around this type of product or service that you offer to them? And when you understand those 3 steps that I just shared with you, then you know exactly why the prospect will buy from you. And if you go into the sales conversation and you're talking to them about product or service or coaching, and in this case, Ed is a coach and he's amazing at it. And I know probably what he started doing was saying, well, try this, or have you tried that, or have you tried this? And they said, no, that's a good idea. And he's, let's help you execute one of those things. And then he would give that on a sales call, and then the person would leave and do the thing and get results and never come back to him. And so that was happening. And so find out why and under what circumstances the prospect will actually buy from you. And here's the answer: sell today, educate tomorrow. Your job during the sales conversation is not to share the candy in the lobby with the how to do whatever it is that you're doing, but it's rather to ask what problems they have and what they've tried to do to solve them. How did that work? How much does that cost them? How do they feel about it? Are they trying to give up solving it? These are all great questions to ask during a sales conversation, because then you'll know, like, oh, this has a big problem. They haven't solved it yet. I know my solution can actually provide the answer that they're looking for. And then you just say this: listen, this is what I do 7 days a week. I like your vibe. I'd like to work with you. Am I somebody that you'd like to work with? Boom. When they say, yeah, you seem like a great guy, you just got the emotional close inside of the sales conversation. So what's the next thing to do after you get the emotional close? Boom. Hey, let's just go work out the details, right? We'll figure out how you can afford this. We'll figure out, who else is in the buying decision to actually make sure that we can get this over the line. And when we do, guess what's going to happen? We're going to come back and smash that problem for you, right? Sell today, educate tomorrow. Understand they have the problem that you solve. Dig into it, understand the personal impact it's giving that person, and then get that emotional close that I just walked through on this call a few seconds ago. And then say, yeah, let's just figure out the logistical details, which is going to include your budget, which is going to include the buying process. And then you say, is this something you think you can do? That's the only close question you need at that stage. And once you have that close and you actually deliver it in that format, people will say yes. And then you'll get new clients. And then you won't be spilling your candy in the lobby. So again, today, lesson is this: sell today, educate tomorrow. Avoid spilling your candy in the lobby. Don't do it. Your goal on the sales call: find out why and under what circumstances the prospect will buy from you. A great question here. So I'll just go a little bit longer because I got a few minutes. One of the questions that came in is, do you find out the decision maker at the end of the call? Actually, that comes after you've determined they have the problem you solve and how and when they can commit the budget to actually solving that problem. And then we talk about the decision process and the decision makers. And the question comes in midway through the conversation. It's, who besides yourself is involved in the decision-making process? That one will pull it out, right? That's right. Sell today, educate tomorrow. Let's see. Brandon says this: that's great. You must ask them how they make buying decisions. Some just pitch and never ask, is there why? Yep, absolutely 100%. It happens to me too. I've made this mistake so many times. Yeah, well, guess what? That's why I'm answering these questions. Love you guys. I think this is a helpful one and a powerful one. And you've just been tuned in and tuned up. Thank you for being here for another high ticket tune-up. Don't forget to smash the like button, share this to somebody that cares about it, and please subscribe to the channel. And I look forward so much to seeing you next time.